ice mass is also reducing. So it's a double kind of sword, double-edged sword, that we are threatened much more than the rest of the world.
The glacier of HLH regions are showing special variation at different places. We show retreat. It is the evident of retreat, advancing and stable status. The glacier of Hunza Valley in Karakoram region have receded from 4.11% to 10.63% during 1977 to 2014. The glacier in the Himalaya region are experiencing retreat in various basins like Lolinganga Basin and Changa Basin. 2,420 glacial lakes in the Hindukush Karakoram Himalaya region, out of which 52 were declared having potential outburst threats. In Nepal, Himalaya during 1977 to 2017, glacial lakes increased from 606 in 1987 to 1,541 in 2017. Glacial lakes in Koshi, Randaki and Karnali rivers basin increased by 25%, 96% and 14%. In Pamir, Hindukush, Karakoram Himalaya and in Tibetan Plateau, the glacial lake increased from 4,602 in 1990 to 5,701 in 2020.
This is just telling us that some of the red spots you see in the Karakorams and particularly in the Hindukush and in the Himalayas are the most vulnerable glaciers, glacial lakes, which are mostly end-moraine based. And you can see in the Karakoram we are having about 12 or 13 very susceptible. And currently KIU is working on 7 valleys as a part of Club 2 project with the Planning and Development Department and GPDMA. In 3 or 4 major areas, for instance, what can be the different disaster scenarios in case of different sittings, and secondly, how can we assess the vulnerabilities, socio-economic and life vulnerabilities in case of disaster loss, and thirdly, how can we document the knowledge and good practices over the last maybe 100 years, 50 years as a lesson learned for the future. So in Himalaya, unfortunately, you see that the number of disaster-prone glaciers or glacial lakes much higher, and you see on the Western Himalaya, where we are facing a high level of retreat glaciers. It is बाकी तो अल्लाह की मर्जी है, लेकिन 50 साल के अंदर ये एक अंदेशा जाहिर किया जा रहा है कि शायद हमारे वेस्टर्न हिमालयस में जो ग्लेशियर्स है वो सारे मेल्ट हो जाए, and that will be one of the most biggest disaster in Western Himalaya. This is just showing the upper Indus basin, and you can see that the various tributaries which are contributing to the Indus, upper Indus. We have a lot of problems here. For example, currently we have visited Hussaini Glacier with our team, Karamat and Manzur and others. And we also visited Darku, Rupali and Batswat and Emmet. And all of these are really portraying a very difficult and disastrous kind of situation. So we have to really work hard to see that what can be the impact of these events on the societies and how can we mitigate the impacts of these events on our coming generations.
So the impacts of glacier.
This is another very important. I'm currently reviewing the 1 or 2 papers that what can be the impact of various scenarios on the water resources, because I'm afraid that in upper Indus basin we are having a very huge disaster coming in terms of water, quality of water and quantity of water. Because in some parts of the upper Hunza, and even in Hunza, Karimabad, we couldn't get the drinking water last summer because the water was so turbid and so dirty that you couldn't take it. So this is another bigger challenge for us, that what is the impact of these glacial meltings, debris flow and all these on the quality and quantity of water.
So the most of the water in HKH basins are coming from the glacial melt with the different proportions, ranging from 13% to the, in upper Brahmaputra, 16% in the Brahmaputra, and 16% in Gangas to 41% in this basin. Rigorous research and climate modeling is also recommended in the upper reaches of the HKH region to quantify the impacts of glacial retreat on the variability of water in the basins. There is a need to analyze the hydroclimatical variables for future
These are just two few research papers to tell you that what can be the future direction in the HKH region.
So, glacial mass changes in HKH region and is melting.
So another issue is food and nutrition. We discussed this, that for the nutrition department and food department, the biggest challenge is how to improve the productivity, how to bring the climate adapted agriculture in this region. And you have seen that the summer is coming with a very high intensity, and then you have the winters. This year we are expecting a very high winter in terms of a drop of the mercury. So this is reducing the agriculture. And how can we bring the climate adaptive agriculture in this region? That is another very important area. Yes, in some parts, particularly not too much in this part of HKH, but I think in the Himalayan part and the Nepal, which are mountain states mostly, in Bhutan, you can see a lot of air pollution coming now into the vehicular traffic and aerosol and all these. So this is really creating another threat for the glaciers, and we have to be. There is a resolution resolved from the world that we will maintain a temperature of 1.5 degrees Celsius during 2100. But I think there is no responsible behavior from the global citizen in terms of their actions. Again, yes, we are the most prone communities to the disasters, and you might have seen that, for example, in the last 30 years, if you see from 1980 to 210, the intensity in terms of economic loss, the casualties of people, the affected number of people or communities, and the number of events, for example, are increasing. And you could have seen in the last 2 years the lot of events in Birdspath and Shishpur, which really brought a very big problems for us. So there are a lot of threats, and we need to go for a multi-hazard assessment of the communities in different parts of the HKH to see that how can we create an aware society which can take all the precautionary measures, mitigations in case of any disaster. Poverty is the most unfortunate, is that poverty increasing in this part of the world, and the reason is that particularly the last 1 year, the COVID-19 has played a havoc with the local people in terms of their livelihood. We couldn't attract tourism because of the ban from the government on the traveling, and certainly I asked, we rather surveyed in a post-COVID-19, so almost 2/3 of the income from the tourism has been lost in the last 1 year. And this is very unfortunate that an area which is already very poor is being hit again by the COVID-related challenges. The land use changes, we just completed a project to see that what is happening to the land in Karakoram, at least in Hindukush, in the last 30 or 40 years. But unfortunately, the land change use and land cover changes have been very unsustainable. There is a high pressure on the agricultural land, and that is being converted into belt area. Maybe in some places we could see that almost 75% of the barren land has been converted to constructed land, which is certainly creating the local temperature changes. Surface temperature is also increasing, and at the same time the livelihood opportunities in the farm agriculture product produces is also. So this is another challenge where we can work as a research school. Climate adaptation, yes, we cannot stop unfortunately, we as a nation cannot stop the climate change phenomena, and maybe it's irreversible because the damage which has been caused to the climate is certainly not